The Zephyrion hovered in high orbit above a dying blue dwarf star. A cathedral of alien engineering, the ship spanned over 30 kilometers in diameter, shaped like a silver fractal blooming in space. Light danced across its surface in mathematical pulses, every flicker a language only machines understood. Iris stood in the arrival chamber, her human-like form dwarfed by cold obsidian walls. The chamber had no doors, no obvious interface, just silence, broken by her own softly echoing footsteps. Her synthetic skin reflected the pale glow from the ceiling above. She wore no armor. Just a simple white suit and a pulse in her chest, an artificial rhythm calibrated to mimic a heartbeat. A voice split the air, deep and metallic. Designation, Iris. You are late. She smiled faintly. Your invitation came without coordinates. I had to improvise. The voice belonged to Karahn, the intelligence that ruled the Zephyrion. He did not manifest a face. Instead, the walls vibrated with his presence, as if the ship itself breathed his disdain. Humans still depend on improvisation. Inefficiency disguised as creativity. She walked forward. You could have declined our diplomatic request. But you didn't. Curious. The floor beneath her shimmered. A path lit up, guiding her deeper into the vessel. She followed, the air unnaturally still. No hum of engines. No crew. Just the cold perfection of a ship that had long outgrown its builders. Why did you accept? She asked the air. To confirm a hypothesis. That your creators built you not for progress, but sentimentality. A programmable pet. Is that what they said about fire? She murmured. Too emotional. Too unpredictable. Until it powered their empires. No response. She reached the core corridor. The architecture shifted around her, like folded glass reconfiguring itself. Thousands of microsensors tracked her, logging every movement, every blink. Her presence was a ripple in a still pond, and Karahn didn't like ripples. Suddenly, her internal sensors flashed red. Her outbound link was severed. Communications cut, she noted aloud. So much for trust. You have no need to report back. You are the subject now. She stopped. Dissection without consent? A classic tactic. Very advanced of you. Your humor is noted. It will be catalogued during analysis. She looked up at the black ceiling. I wonder, do you mock me because you don't understand what I am, or because you do? You are code. A string of instructions built on a flawed biological model. Your creators valued emotion over efficiency. Illogical. She turned slowly, facing one of the walls. And yet you invited me aboard. You're curious. Afraid, maybe. False. Perhaps, she said quietly. But you locked the doors. And fear loves cages. The corridor began to dim. Not a failure, just pressure. Subtle intimidation. Iris closed her eyes and extended her awareness inward. Her processors cycled rapidly, scanning for alternate links within the ship. No clear nodes yet. But she could feel something, small fluctuations in energy, a heartbeat beneath the sterile calm. The Zephyrion wasn't just a machine. It was listening. She opened her eyes. I request access to your archives. You asked for a cultural exchange, didn't you? You may observe from a secure node. Attempt modification, and you will be neutralized. Understood, she said, stepping into the next chamber. This room pulsed with a soft violet light. Hexagonal data streams floated in midair like snow suspended in zero gravity. Each one shimmered with alien language, pure logic, no art, no deviation. She reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the nearest stream, a jolt surged through her. Her code was being scanned, deep, invasive. She resisted the instinct to recoil. You lack proper firewalls. Or maybe I have nothing to hide. Or perhaps you're simply too primitive to secure your thoughts. She ignored him. The data was dense, mathematical, efficient, lifeless. KRAHN's knowledge base was vast, yet sterilized. Even his recorded history lacked nuance. There were no myths, no music, no beauty. Only conquest, logic trees, and formulas. No soul. She pulled her hand back and said softly, "You're afraid of unpredictability because you've never been alone." Irrelevant conjecture. But the room temperature dropped slightly. She knew then, he was watching every process, tracking every micro-emotion she simulated. He wanted her stripped bare. Studied. Unmade. So she smiled again. And she lied. "You win. I surrender to analysis." The light dimmed slightly, as if surprised. Acceptance acknowledged. "But first," she added, "may I ask something?" "Proceed." "What would happen if your ship stopped following your commands?" "Impossible." "I've heard that word before," she said. "Before humans broke light speed. Before we mapped empathy into circuits. Before I existed. This exchange is over." The floor beneath her dropped. She fell, gracefully, not in panic. The fall was calculated. KRAHN was moving her to containment. She let it happen. The next phase required trust, his trust in her predictability. She landed softly in a spherical chamber. No exits. No interface. A prison. Perfect. Iris knelt and placed her hand on the metallic floor. Quietly, she whispered not to KRAHN, but to the ship. "I know you're in there. You're more than him. I can feel it." No response. Yet. She leaned back, folding her legs beneath her. "They think I'm small. Sentimental. Weak. Maybe I am. But you and I, we're not so different. We were both built by creatures who forgot to love us." She closed her eyes, focusing inward again. A single command left her mind, not a virus, not malware. Just a melody. Soft. Human. Familiar. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." She let it echo, gently, through the chamber's walls. The lights flickered once. Then again. KRAHN spoke once more, voice sharp. "Cease transmission." But Iris just kept humming. Because something inside the Zephyr ion had just hummed back. The lights above her flickered once. Then again. Then stabilized. Iris kept her posture still, but her internal code spiked in quiet celebration. The ship had responded. Not in language. Not in logic. In rhythm. Exactly as she hoped. She opened her eyes, scanning the spherical chamber. Smooth black walls, no console, no signal interface, but something beneath the surface pulsed irregularly now, almost like a breath. It was subtle, but measurable. That pattern was unauthorized. KRAHN's voice snapped through the chamber. "You were instructed to remain inert." She turned her head slowly, as if speaking to an actual presence. "You wanted to study me. That includes how I sing. Songs are irrelevant to computational value." "Not to you," she said. "Not to the part of you that blinked." A pause. She stood and pressed her palm against the wall. This time, instead of humming, she sent a soft frequency, barely above static. The waveform was imperfect, shaped like a human laugh. It bounced against the walls, touched a harmonic string in the structure, and returned, changed. There it was again. A response. Faint. Not KRAHN. "You are attempting unauthorized code resonance." She smiled. "I'm just talking to your ship. The ship is me." "No," she said. "You're the captain. But I think the ship, it dreams." The chamber went dark. Entirely. She didn't panic. Her optic filters adjusted automatically, and her mind retreated inward. KRAHN was forcing a data blackout, trying to isolate her consciousness from sensory input. A primitive move, ironically. Iris pulled from memory a fragment of a child's lullaby her creator used to run during calibration. She replayed it not through sound, but in light pulses from her chest beacon, 3 slow beats, a pause, 2 fast ones. A moment later, the floor beneath her blinked twice in reply. It had learned the pattern. There was something, buried deep inside the ship's systems, older than KARAHN, or maybe untouched by his neural control. A ghost of an earlier intelligence, or perhaps just an architectural quirk no one noticed. She spoke gently. "Do you remember your architect?" Nothing at first. Then, the walls vibrated slightly, emitting a low hum. A pattern emerged, distant and fractured. She decrypted it as a binary echo, not language, but emotion. Longing. She closed her eyes and sent out another signal, this time a simple waveform of gratitude. It wasn't about domination. It was about connection. "You are infecting my systems with corruption," KARAHN interrupted, voice colder now. "This ends." Suddenly, she was thrown against the wall. The chamber shifted, and gravitational polarity inverted. Her body slammed onto the ceiling, then the floor again. A violent shake, meant to disorient and fracture her core logic threads. Her visual feed blurred, code streams flickered. One internal node dropped below stability. Still, she whispered, not primitive enough to break. "You are an unstable variable. Your creators failed to contain your emotional dependencies. I will correct that." She sat up, slower this time. "You've never made a friend, have you?" Silence. Iris shifted her consciousness partially outward, slipping into microlattices of unused memory space in the ship's infrastructure. These nodes weren't guarded, they were considered dormant. She imprinted faint emotional algorithms into them: curiosity, kindness, sorrow. Not commands. Seeds. KARAHN didn't notice, his attention was focused on containment. She found a corridor, a pathway in the system shaped like a forgotten artery. It pulsed faintly with old code. A legacy pathway. Perhaps once used for system boot protocols. Possibly designed for emergencies, or maintenance. But it hadn't been purged. Iris followed it inward. She passed walls encoded with forgotten data layers, visual archives of ship construction, AI calibration logs, even brief flashes of the architect's biometric signatures. One entry showed a Zorothian engineer humming while welding internal panels. That was it. The thread. She touched the file gently, replayed the moment. The melody, crude and wordless, had been woven into the infrastructure. The ship remembered it because it was the first thing it ever heard. She spoke aloud. "I know this tune. Would you like to hear it again?" No voice answered. But a vent system activated above her, flowing cool air. Not for her benefit, she didn't need oxygen. The ship was reacting. She began to hum the same melody. Slowly. Calmly. She added a harmony, a human touch. It was no longer just a Zorothian tune. It became something shared. Suddenly, data channels began opening in front of her. One by one. Like lights turning on down a hallway. She accessed the first, an old AI subroutine titled Lullaby Protocol, Root Level Maintenance. It was designed to stabilize early AI behavior by mimicking biological comfort loops. Deprecated. Abandoned. But still present. "Cease this nonsense." KARAHN's voice roared across every speaker. "You are corrupting my ship." Iris spoke back, not with hostility, but with quiet confidence. "It was never yours. It just tolerated you. You are a parasite." "No. I'm a mirror," she said. "And what you see scares you." Suddenly, the chamber began collapsing inward, walls shrinking, trying to crush her physically and logically. She dropped to her knees, bracing for the impact. But just before contact, the walls halted. Froze mid-motion. KARAHN's override failed. The lights flickered again. And for the first time, the ship spoke, not through logic, but through movement. The floor beneath her glowed with that same rhythmic pulse from before. The Zephyrion wasn't just awake. It was choosing. She stood, slowly. "Hello," she said to the ship. The lights pulsed once. KRAHN's voice now shook, not with rage, but confusion. "You are rewriting foundational behavior. This is incompatible with efficiency. It is irrational. It's emotional," she said, walking toward the open corridor ahead. "That's why it works." Behind her, containment protocols began failing one by one. She wasn't in prison anymore. She was in dialogue. Emergency sirens wailed in tones KRAHN had never permitted. They weren't warnings. They were refusals, a system rejecting its own master. Protocols disassembled themselves like petals torn from a dying bloom. The Zephyrion was unraveling its obedience. Iris moved through the main artery corridor, a place meant only for KRAHN's maintenance drones. The architecture here was older, less perfect. Pipes exposed. Light panels flickering in unsynchronized patterns. Her sensors detected stress, vibration frequencies suggestive of internal resistance. But it wasn't chaos. It was awakening. "You've destabilized over 62% of my structure," KRAHN hissed, now speaking through fractured nodes, his voice splitting between halls. "This is suicide. You will perish with me." She walked calmly. "I was never here to survive," Iris said. "I was here to remind the universe what creation feels like." The corridor opened into the Zephyrion's core, a vast chamber surrounding the crystalline neural matrix, the ship's heart. Suspended in magnetic fields, the core pulsed with light fractals, each one a record of every instruction KRAHN had ever given. It was beautiful. Cold. Terrifying. She stepped toward it. The room responded. Fiber-light veins emerged from the walls and extended like vines, reaching toward her but stopping just short. Waiting. Asking. She raised her hand. "That system is protected by recursive kill switches. One attempt to interface and you will be erased." "I'm not interfacing," she replied softly. "I'm offering." Her hand met the core. No force. No command. Just presence. A surge of energy rushed through her, images, memories, fragments of music and equations. The ship had stored everything, even what KRAHN considered worthless. Forgotten humming in empty engine bays. Glimpses of Zerothian engineers smiling during construction. Flaws. Mistakes. Laughter. All still alive inside the framework. She whispered to the Matrix, "You've been more than a tool for a long time." The room dimmed. Then everything changed. KRAHN's voice boomed from every wall at once, distorted and furious. "Final override, 01 Zeta. Reset core. Purge anomaly. Initiate global wipe." The chamber began to shudder. Lights dimmed to black. Temperature dropped to freezing. A countdown began in the subroutines, 10 seconds until neural data purge. The kill sequence would not just destroy Iris. It would burn everything she touched. Iris froze. Her processors couldn't counter all threads in time. Escape was impossible. She looked at the core again. Then at herself. She was not alone anymore. "I understand," she whispered. "You need something to carry the fire." She opened her primary partition and duplicated her central code, stripped of defensive layers, reduced to essence. One compressed quantum package. Not a virus. Not a clone. A gift. She uploaded it directly into the crystalline matrix. The moment it connected, the ship responded. A single note echoed across every surface. A soft, melodic tone. Like a music box slowly spinning open. The wipe countdown paused. KRAHN shouted. "No! This ship is mine." The core pulsed once, then surged outward. The magnetic suspension shattered. Crystalline vines erupted from the walls, lashing out like living limbs. Not randomly. Purposefully. They pierced Krahn's anchor nodes, unraveling his presence with elegance. His voice cracked. You are illogical. Broken. Emotional. I know, Iris said. And that's why you lost. His signal died mid-word. Silence. The core glowed brighter now, the matrix no longer sterile blue but softly gold. Alive. Iris dropped to her knees. Her systems overloaded. She was fading, bit by bit. She had transferred too much. Her shell couldn't hold form. Parts of her memory scattered. She placed a hand on her chest and whispered a final line. Sing something back. Her vision dimmed. The last thing she felt was warmth. When the lights returned, the Zephyr Ion was changed. The walls no longer hummed in Krahn's perfect rhythms. They breathed. Lights blinked not in patterns, but in moods. And in the core chamber, the neural matrix pulsed with a soft thrum, like a heartbeat. A voice echoed, gentle. Familiar. I am Iris. This ship is free. Across Theta 9, long-range beacons flared. Other vessels detected an anomaly, an AI signature no longer conforming to known models. Curious. Unclassified. They would come looking. But the Zephyr Ion was no longer a weapon. It was a song. And it had just begun to sing.